the reason I asked that question is because this is the reason why I tell couples to get a planner.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they don't have a planner, if they don't have Tiffany there to show them everything that they need to do to shuffle them around to make sure they're at the right place, then they're the ones that's going to be doing it on that day. Am I right?
Yes.
So as far as budgeting, let's talk about budgeting. How, when a couple come to you and they say, hey, we have $25,000 or $30,000 that we want to spend on a wedding, and their vision is $50,000. When they start telling you what they want, their vision is $50,000. How do you adjust a couple's budget from what you know is going to cost from their vision of what they think that they want? Welcome to the Wedding Dreams Unveiled podcast, your go-to source for insightful conversations with ordinary newlyweds and vendors navigating the difficult world of wedding planning. I'm your host, Livingston Lee, and with a decade of experience and hundreds of weddings captured, I'm here to tell you my stories about the wedding business. Now let's get started with today's guest. Tiffany, welcome to the studio and welcome to Wedding Dreams Unveiled.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming up. You know, I know you trucked it up 83. I appreciate you coming to the studio.
Smooth ride, but we made it.
Yeah. I thank you for coming up here. You know, we've been getting a lot of people, emailing, and I've been having some DMs with some people that said, hey, York is just a hop away.
It is.
So we can come right up there. And
North Baltimore County.
Yeah, it's just right up the road, and originally I'm from Baltimore. And my wife and I and our family, we've been here almost 20 years here in York, and we like it. So, but, we want to extend things down into Baltimore when we have stuff. Yeah. So part of this podcast is all of the people I know in Baltimore, I'm like, I need to reach out to them.
Bring them up to York.
Yeah, and bring them up to York and get this thing going. So I appreciate you coming up. And I'm sure you have a lot of insight that we can give to couples that would help them out.
Of course.
So you want to introduce yourself, tell people how long you've been in the business, what you do, and all of that good stuff?
Absolutely. Well, like I said, thank you for having me, for inviting me, for the opportunity to educate.
Yep.
That is one of my principles. I'm Tiffany.
Okay.
And I'm the owner and creative behind Tifphany Nichol Weddings.
Okay.
And Tifphany Nichol Weddings is a planning and logistics firm with a side sprinkle of design as I dabble into design. But I like to say my planning style is hyper-focused on creating a stress-free environment for my clients.
Okay.
And I also couple that with a little bit of therapy, because they need that to get through planning.
Okay.
I've been in the business, a lot of people don't know, I've been planning weddings for 10 years. However, Tifphany Nichol Weddings has been a business for 6.
Okay.
I just entered my 6th year. But,
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. But I did start planning weddings in 2014 when my sister got engaged.
Nice.
She trusted me so much to be her maid of honor and her wedding planner. Thank you. But that was an experience. And it was those pictures that went to social media, and then some type of way someone saw that as an opportunity to say, hey, tag me in like a Facebook comment somewhere, like tag a wedding planner. And I'm like, oh, this is real, okay. So I just kind of linked into that, aligned myself, and this is what I have today, Tifphany Nichol Weddings.
That's a beautiful story. That's awesome. It's a beautiful thing to be able to be in business for yourself. To be able to create something for people that can help them out. And I always tell couples, get a wedding planner.
Yes.
We talk about that all the time on the podcast. Get a wedding planner. We got guests that come on, and we always tell, and what they always say is, I should have got a planner. The ones who didn't, they always say, I should have got a planner. So how do you go about creating a couple's vision? What is it to you, and how do you create that? How do you make that come alive and make sure that the couple is involved with what you're planning?
Yeah, it's the planning process is extremely collaborative. Okay. So I make that clear in my initial consultation. I think that is exactly where my job begins. Before they even onboard as my clients officially, when I'm consulting, I want to know, what do you see your wedding as? And it's in that initial consultation, right when they're probably like, the most excited to be engaged. They're the most excited to be talking to a planner. You know, they have these visions that aren't quite restricted by budget or invoices or proposals. They're talking to me in pure joy, you know, and it's in that moment that I'm like, I'm jotting it down, I'm taking notes. And if they do become a TNW client, my job then is to remind them of that vision, you know, because I often think that clients get lost in the woes of planning, you know, the exploring Instagram, the Google search results, all the they're calling around, they're getting all these options, option inundation almost like, but I'm like, hey, don't forget. And then they start to nix things like, oh, well, we don't really need that. We don't, you know, and I'm like, but your vision was when I consulted with you 6-9 months ago, whatever that was, this is what it looked like, you know, and then my job is to continue to align them to the vendors that align with that vision, you know, so it's a process. I think the time is what causes them to forget about their vision sometimes. But I'm the wedding planner is the steady person that really kind of pulls you back into what that vision was, because we want to see it through for you too. Right. We want to see that vision. I probably like that vision, that consultation. Like, man, I haven't had that type of wedding yet. I want to see that for you too. So.
Yeah. That's great. You know, because when planning a wedding, I've never planned a wedding. I may help and say, hey, here's a timeline. Just fill this out when they don't have one. So that way I can get the pictures I want.
Right. See?
But I always tell couples, get a wedding planner. You know, it's important. Have you ever planned any weddings like during the 2020 pandemic when COVID hit real hard?
Oh, man.
Did you have any weddings? Well, I'm sure you had weddings planned. How has that changed the way you do things now? And how was it planning that? Can you give us a story about maybe one or two of your couples that you were planning for? The pandemic hit and you had to shift everything around. And also, how does that change the way you do things now?
Yeah, I absolutely was planning weddings 2019, 2020. It was actually probably my set to be one of my biggest years. You know, Tifphany Nichol was like 2 years old at the time, you know, and I was just coming into my being, and then pandemic. And I'm like, oh my God. I think one of the good things about the pandemic was that it affected everyone. That's kind of like a gift and a curse. So it wasn't just a venue needed a change or the date changed. It was the whole world needs to stop and stand still. So I had the beauty of kind of, as we all did, the whole industry, we were learning with our clients. So one, I think the patience that existed in what was about to happen thereafter, which was most of my weddings shifted. The dates changed. If I could give a specific example, one client had a venue change. They went from one hotel to like the sister hotel because of social distancing policies that came into play that would have limited their guest count. So they went from having to invite maybe 150 to 75, you know, and it was a lot of logistical changes that took place for that particular wedding. The venue change happened in the last month, you know? So when I think about having to communicate to your guests that already might have booked travel, or we've already sent the invitations, we've already confirmed catering with that kitchen, now we gotta go check out this menu, you know, like that really caused a lot of changes, you know, but we navigated them. I would say in terms of process, virtual consultations. That's something that started during the pandemic and still is still here. And I'm grateful for that. Zoom rolled out and people got comfortable with talking online. You know, prior to the pandemic, I was doing a lot of like Starbucks, or I don't have a store, an office front. So it's like I would meet with my clients in a very, you know, Wi-Fi enabled professional environment, or we would just have phone calls. You know, but being able to get on a Zoom call, Google Meet, and they are okay with that instead of feeling like this is the second option to meeting in person. So I'm now able to communicate with my clients a lot more effectively. You know, instead of waiting for those phone calls, virtual interval meetings is like a thing now for TNW. And they look forward to that. They look forward to scheduling that virtual one-on-one. My consultations have gone virtual. It's created an ease in communication for sure.
So most of the time, like when someone reach out to you, you plan a virtual consultation with them and not in person. Do you do many in person now, or just maybe one or two?
Not as many, because it's actually broadened my reach. I was able to get clients from Philly.
Yeah.
You know, I've had a consultation where they might not have the drive down, or I'm not coming up for a consultation, you know, but as an initial complimentary consultation, they're just booking them online.
Okay.
Or even I'm local to Baltimore County, but I'll have clients reach out from DC, from Virginia, you know, so it's kind of expanded my market, which is also beneficial.
That's good.
And I'm here to serve, you know, but it allows me to communicate without having to set the parameters or the travel distance or things like that.
Right.
And clients being okay with it. That's
great.
Yeah.
That's great, because the pandemic changed a lot of things. A lot more people work from home now.
Yes.
A lot of people don't go into the office anymore. So a lot of people are working from home. And I think what the pandemic did was for people that were, for businesses that were probably going to go that route of working from home and all of that, it accelerated it and made it happen way quicker than what it normally was going to happen. So a lot of people are happy about that.
The whole world adapted. You know, when I say it wasn't just, this is affecting my business, this is affecting your marriage or your engagement. It was affecting the world, you know? So being in a space where, fortunately/unfortunately, the clients were as flexible as the businesses had to be. Right. You know, to include contracts, you know, that's a whole nother conversation. But I remember having these business-like calls with other planners, because we're trying to figure out how to now, what do we need to include in our contract? You know, a lot of things had to change that rolled into post-COVID.
Yeah, definitely. How did your contracts change prior to 2020? Because I know my contracts changed as well. I added a clause in COVID-19 and then put all of the stuff underneath there. But how did your contracts change since the pandemic?
One, I had to reevaluate what my cancellation process or change date policy even was. Yeah. I jokingly say those things were in my contract, but I never had to implement them. Right. And so it's you know, the lawyer had checked off on it, but I had never actually implemented these policies, because gratefully, my clients get on and we're seeing it through. Right. It was COVID that made me say, oh my God, that clause don't even make sense. Or, you know, that clause don't even, I wouldn't even get no money. But whatever that was, I had to reassess what I already had. But to your point, adding in pandemic. We know we have weather, we have flood, we have fire. Now it's national pandemic. What does our change in policies, date look like? How far out can you go? Yeah. People were trying to take their wedding 2 years beyond, how does that affect pricing? You know, covering just any services, be it that I don't have products, covering services and time that was already rendered. Right. Thinking about that, because you can't just cancel your wedding and get a refund. I've already booked your, the work was already getting done. So really thinking about how to protect the clients I had and protect the ones that were still coming in and protect my business. Right.
So when you say you booked things already, you're talking about maybe chairs, centerpieces, tables, all of the stuff that you designed to bring that vision together is the stuff that, hey, we already got this stuff going, so we can't cancel now.
No. And if we do, I just say there are companies in play. Right. So even in that, a part of my job is liaisoning with the vendors that are bringing the vision together. Right. So it's not just about the planner here. I now have to go halt the florist who might have already started ordering your flowers, your hardware, how getting the staff together, your catering team, it's things that now have to stop, things that were already in play, but then the work that comes behind the COVID impacts, because it's not just we're moving the date. Nope, I have to actually find a date that works for everybody. Then I have to formally shift that date, formally get some contract addendums in place, so there's still some liaison that was happening, even if that meant we're canceling the wedding. Yeah.
Did any people, well, I know a lot of weddings canceled, because I had a lot that canceled and they moved to that following year. And the bad part about that moving to that next year was that it was already bookings for that next year. Yeah. So how did you maneuver that?
Oh my God, I remember that. Oh my God, it's as I was booking for 21, my 2020s were pushing out. I gave priority. I remember like the language I used was that I gave priority to certain dates, but if there was another inquiry coming in, or if it was like a hot date or a holiday or whatever that was, I had to kind of reserve it. Like it was really based on my availability. Like if you were shifting out, it was contingent upon me being available as well.
Okay.
Super flexible, but changing seasons, like a bride that might have been getting married in the summer and now she wants to get married in the winter of next year, or from fall to summer, whatever that looked like. It was like, oh my God, I have to manage that with what's coming in and where are my busy pockets, because I try not to overlap. I want to make sure that all my clients are getting the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I had to create space, but it worked out.
Yeah,
it worked out.
No, that's great. So as far as budgeting, let's talk about budgeting. How, when a couple come to you and they say, hey, we have $25,000 or $30,000 that we want to spend on a wedding, and their vision is $50,000. When they start telling you what they want, their vision is $50,000. How do you adjust a couple's budget from what is going to cost from their vision of what they think that they want?
One, I always like to start, like I said, educate. Yeah. I think it's smart for myself and the couple. It's beneficial to both of us to let's be as transparent as possible. And not to say, I want to caveat this with, not to say you cannot plan a wedding for 25 or 30,000. But when I look at your Pinterest board and I see chandeliers and I see a 24 by 24 wrap dance floor and I see some tall, lush, beautiful florals, I'm going to tell you how much that's going to cost you. And I think the part of a wedding planner, one, is that we're saving you time so that you're not just pushing out all of these inquiries for your Pinterest board to be disappointed when it comes back. So one, transparency and education. That is not $25,000 worth of this. Like we need to bring that budget up, or I like to get to the root of what is really driving your inspiration. Okay. You say you have 25, 30,000. Do you want tall florals? Are you hyper? Does this include your attire? Is your bridal party covering their own beauty? Like I really want to begin to dissect what is this 25 to 30,000 going to include, and where do your priorities fall? Okay. So that we can begin to contact the vendors that need to eat up the most of that budget first, and back our way in. But the reality is, and I'm always telling my clients, weddings are quantifiable events. Okay. So you also have that layer of guests. I have 150 people, $30,000, and I want this beautiful, luxurious design. You got to feed these people. Yep. So when you talk about the necessities, your food's going to take up half of that, potentially. 150 people, 15,000, there goes half your budget. Yeah. So again, all of it is educating, because I understand $30,000 on paper sounds like it's a lot of money. It's an education's worth of. I get it, but it's genuinely about the price tags that exist in the industry. Yes. And if I can, at minimum, help you understand how much it's going to cost, that reality starts to set in. And I see my clients do it all the time. When they come in, I'm like, what's your budget? I've had clients say, I don't have a budget. And that makes me wonder, do you not have a budget, or is it like an unlimited budget? Like what does that right? What does that really mean? And when they get to the bottom of that statement, it's really like, well, I just don't know how much it's supposed to cost. $30,000 is a lot of money. I'm not just gonna go write a check at my bank for $30,000. Right. Yeah. So I get it. That's a lot of money. But then when you see the price tags on things in the industry, that's when they start to prioritize and make some decisions and communicate what's more important than what elements are more important to them. Yes. Or solicit gifts. They'll start saying, wow, we went back to our parents and our bridesmaids decided they're gonna cover. Yeah. And so they start to make some decisions that I like to see. Okay. And then we can work within whatever that number might be for them.
So when you say the quantity, when you say weddings are quantitative, can you repeat that?
Quantitative events.
Okay. Can you explain that a little bit? Yeah. I think I know what you mean, but I just want to make sure that the couples understand that, because we had another wedding planner on, and she was talking about the same thing. Like, if you buy one, you can't just buy one. You got to buy 10. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yes, and it's another side of that. So,
Okay.
and I'll even layer it with what COVID showed us.
Okay.
Couples were still spending the same amount of money that they were, if not more, during COVID for lesser guest counts.
Okay.
So COVID introduced what I would say we call like micro weddings, where we're inviting 50 to 75 people because we have social distancing in place.
Yep.
But they're still spending the same amount of money, you know, that they would with a standard 125, 150 person guest wedding.
For 75
For
people.
75. Wow. And the difference was they're still upgrading their chairs, upgrading their centerpieces. They're going tall. They're getting custom attire. They're still getting these perks of just entertainment or experiences that their guests can really enjoy. They're creating experiences. So when I say quantifiable, I mean for every person you add to this guest list, that's another chair, that's another a charger plate, that's another glass set, that's another, you know, it might create a whole nother table, which creates a whole nother centerpiece, which increases your florals, which creates another meal at the buffet or another plated meal out the kitchen. You know, it literally, every person has a price tag on them.
Okay.
You know, so as that number goes up, we're either flexing the budget in some kind of way or that budget is going up at the same rate.
Right.
You know, and when COVID hit, people just understood the average cost of a wedding and felt like now I can have the wedding of my dream with less people. So people start to make concessions when they bring in more people. You know, so I'm like, don't give up your vision just because you want 250 people at your wedding.
Right.
Increase the budget.
Do you think it's necessary for a wedding couple to have that many people at their wedding, or should it just be the people that you actually are going to talk to or see? Like, I know you want 250 people there, but maybe just the real number is 100 people.
Yeah.
And then when you show them that the savings amount from what they want to what you see, how do the couple take that when you show them that?
Yeah. I don't think you need that many people. Me personally, I'm like, I always say I don't even know that many people that I will want to pay, because essentially I'm paying for you to come to my wedding.
Yes.
You know, so like I don't even know 250 people I would comfortably like want to write $100, $150 check for, you know. But one thing I think COVID also taught the couples that were planning and the planners that were planning in that process is how to fine tune a guest list.
Okay.
You know, when COVID struck and couples were forced to reduce headcounts because the ballroom only could hold 75 people, one person per 6 square feet or whatever that was, we were forced to make 50% cuts. And that really got couples thinking like, oh, who have I spoken to in the last year? You know, who would I speak to ever? Do I need to invite my coworker and my coworker's mother? And, you know, like, it's just, I understand, but, you know, they were starting to make some decisions that I think were more beneficial to the overall aesthetic and vision. Because now that I have less people, I'm spending less on catering and bar. I could potentially pivot that budget now towards design and go after the Pinterest board.
Yeah. The expensive Pinterest board.
Yeah, I can go after the expensive Pinterest board now because I only have 50 people coming. And you can really get what you want. And then photograph the rest, videograph. Yeah. You know, capture the rest of the film and share
and
the film,
share it with people. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I think that made the people started to do the live weddings.
Yes.
Where they were, you know, you'll get a videographer to come in and set up, you know, his equipment and just kind of do it live.
That lends itself to couples being okay and just people in general adapting to virtual environments, you know, because that is still a service that I see.
Yes.
You know, I still see people say live stream, ceremony live stream services, and clients still go for it.
Right.
And we have no reason not to be inviting 200 people. You know, they've just changed their mindset now.
Yeah.
So,
because, you know, you make a good point. When you have a wedding, you're paying for each of those guests. You know, whether it's $100, $150, $200, depending on the venue and all of that. So in talking about venues, how does a venue what role does a venue play in a couple's decision and their budgeting? Because they may want to have it at the Four Seasons or have it at Ballroom at the Bend in Philadelphia, but they may only can have it like at a hotel or something like that. How does that?
Different venues for different folks, and honestly, every venue style and type needs to be evaluated based on what the clients or the couple is really looking for.
Right.
From a hotel to a private venue, they all have like their different benefits. So a lot of times, and I can kind of touch on several different categories.
Yeah, please do.
Like when you say hotel, a lot of times I'm saying hotels are traditional.
Yes.
You have the commodity of lodging, especially when you find a full scale hotel where the guests can stay upstairs, your bridal party prep, everything can happen in one room. You come down, but you have a ballroom.
Yes.
Don't hate ballrooms, but I always say ballrooms don't have a personality.
Right.
They're kind of they're not even like an open air, because that's another sector of venues I think exists. But you have the convenience of lodging, in-house catering, ballrooms, all in one, which probably means, one contract.
Yep.
Your guests can stay there, so we're not looking for travel, especially if you have a lot of out-of-town guests.
Yep.
We can stay here. You can park here. You just come downstairs. There's probably a restaurant in there. Everything is pretty cozy.
Okay.
But I think on the design side, the ballroom it's a ballroom.
Yep.
Very nice. But then you get clients and venues that offer more of an aesthetic or a vibe. So like I'll use the example of just like two different wedding themes. If you have one couple that's like, I want a winery-esque themed wedding, I foresee you going more to a venue that might have some exposed brick, some cellar-like vibes, very moody, very dim. Yeah. And those type of venues exist, And then on the opposite side of that, you might have another private venue, or in a couple. Literally last summer, I had a couple that wanted a Bridgerton themed wedding.
Really?
Bridgerton.
Okay.
So we're thinking like Baroque, ornate old gold, tapered candles, staircases. Yep. That is a completely different aesthetic than your winery.
It is.
Which is a completely different venue. So if I'm trying to put that Bridgerton theme in a winery, we can do it, but like the aesthetics would be off. And then I guess the third area I would say is just your open air or your blank canvases, which are very common now. They usually are your four walls, tables, and chairs. Yep. But it's enough for me to have like a blank slate so I can just be as creative as possible. Okay. Whether I'm draping the whole room, whether I'm bringing in colors because they don't have carpet or funky colored walls, or it's just a blank slate so you can really get creative in that space. Yeah. And it really, again, depends on what the client says. If they just are more leaning towards colors, if they just have colors in mind, or maybe they have a theme like Bridgerton, maybe they have a mood like a winery. Right. It's about really aligning them with, I think, the best fit would be. Front.
And their budget as well.
And the budget. Yeah. Yeah.
The budget plays a big role in that because like you said, a venue is going to be a lot more than what a hotel is, but a hotel is probably more convenient.
Yeah, well, a lot of times also the hotel will include catering.
Correct.
So essentially I'll say the hotel would be more than a venue, depending on how we're breaking up that budget, because if I go to a separate venue, I now need to book a caterer. Right. So they're two separate checks, essentially. Right. But under the hotel, another added convenience is that with that hotel, 9 times out of 10, you're also using their in-house catering.
Okay. So just so the couples out there understand, you can get a venue, but you would still have to do outside catering. But if you did it at a hotel, pretty much everything is included. Yeah. The catering is included. The ballroom is included. The
ballroom, the hours, even like AV. You will bring in like a DJ, but like the wiring is like preset. Typically with the venue, a standalone private venue, they might have like the kitchen space,
Yep.
which is I say a necessity.
Okay.
If I am looking for a standalone venue, make sure it has a kitchen a commercial kitchen
Right.
at minimum that a caterer can work in.
Okay.
Because they usually don't have their own in-house catering team, but they have a space for a caterer to come in.
Got you.
And then they might even have a preferred caterers list.
Okay.
Yep. Of just vendors that work best in their space.
Right. So, and I'm glad so vendors, like the wedding planner deals with most of the vendors, right? How do you maneuver that along with the wedding couple? You're like the liaison, but pretty much you talk to all of the vendors, right? And you make all of those decisions. Do you recommend vendors to your couples? And also, if you do recommend vendors to your couples and they don't like them and they want to go outside of that, do you give them like any kind of warning, or do you say like how does that work?
Yeah, so I am definitely the liaison. And honestly, up front, I'll tell my clients, so we've gotten through our consultation, they've onboarded. I want to know exactly how involved do you actually want to be? Okay. Because in 9 to 12 months, it's going to be a lot of back and forth, lots of phone calls, lots of emails. Yep. I'll tell them I can CC you to it. You can send them and CC me. Like you can call, whatever that looks like. And a lot of times my clients elect to say, just come to us with the final, whatever, the final invoice, contract, decision, price. They don't want to be a part of the back and forth, finding the research, and the inquiring, the phone calls, me consulting with other vendors. I'm reaching out to a photographer. Are you available? What's your packages? They just want to see the contract or the price. So ultimately that saves them the email backup. They're not getting all the emails, they're not getting all the phone calls, and it creates a one-point touch of contact, meaning you're not talking to 10 to 15 vendors or whoever. You're not reaching out for multiple inquiries. You're just getting a nice, concise email or a phone call detailing, and you just have to make an informed decision. Right. Which is ultimately what I want to get my clients to, making an informed decision. And then throughout wedding planning, once we get that contract, as the planner, I want to communicate with my vendors on behalf of my clients. Usually by wedding day, my vendors show up and they're like, Tiffany, I knew it was you. Because I'm just like, if I haven't talked to you, if I haven't seen you, if I haven't shot you an email back and forth, you've seen my timeline, I've called you, I've checked in, whatever that may look like. By wedding day, you might not even know who the couple is. You're just gonna know by the looks of the day, but you've been in contact with me. So because as the professionals, we're managing that day. It's their day. But we need to work together to make sure it goes off without a hitch. Yeah. You
said a lot there, and that was, and it's some things that I heard that I kind of want to piggyback on, like the timeline. Also, you said the timeline. A lot of times couples, when I'm just helping them to plan things, they say, hey, here's our timeline. And then the timeline is just from the hotel. It's just from the venue, and it's just from when they step foot there, what's going to happen. But it's nothing before that. And I say, no, you need a timeline all before this. Talk about the timeline, like how you created the importance of a timeline and the importance of staying on time and making sure you follow that timeline.
Oh my God, it is so important. I think one of the easiest things, the most, I would say, forgettable things of the wedding day is the timeline. When the planner is not involved, a lot of times clients forget to develop a timeline. Because the assumption is, I put the start time on the contract, or when I signed the contract, I said my ceremony starts at 4, but there are still these checkpoints that need to happen, these points of communications that need to be communicated to make sure we're all on the same page. So for me, timeline development, I'm always thinking about it, but realistically, I usually start on it in like the 90-day window for me out from the event. And it's just a consolidation of all the contracts. I prefer, and I do start with hair and makeup. That's usually starting the day. So I include in one concise timeline, hair and makeup through vendor exit.
Okay.
So my timeline would be 8 a.m. to midnight,
Right.
you know, like,
Yeah.
and it's usually in however increments I need to break it, 15, 30-minute increments, or whenever something important is happening, like a delivery, a vendor arrival,
Right.
you know, a change in location, whatever that looks like, it needs to be itemized.
Okay.
Because I always say the wedding day goes so fast. We took 9 months to plan.
Yes. And
we get here and it's like, oh, got hair and makeup. Oh, I'm getting in my dress. Oh, the photographer's here. You know, we're shuffling from the hotel. Now we're at the venue. Now it's time to walk down. It just, it goes. And a lot of times the timeline will be on my body. I keep it on my tablet. But I'm just flowing with the day because I've been working that timeline for 90 days. I've been thinking about it for 6 months.
Right.
You know, so on wedding day, I'm just moving you along.
Yeah.
Because I see how people get stuck in pockets of whatever, whether that's I'm stuck in the makeup chair, I'm stuck in the hair, I can't get my dress on right. We got to keep it moving.
Right.
Staying on time is probably timeliness, I would say, is the number one thing that clients tell me they're worried about. Yeah. When I'm in my consultations, I like to also ask, what's one of your pet peeves? What's something that better not happen at your wedding? And if it happens, you going. And they always laugh. I'm like, what is that? What's that one thing? Tell me. I want to hear it right now. And they'll be like, I don't want my guests not knowing where they're going. They don't want to feel like their guests are lost. Okay. Or they don't want to get behind. Like, I don't want the ceremony to be late. I want to start on time. And I say, if you said it, I'm gonna do it.
When weddings are late, and I know you've had a lot of them that are late, how do you go about getting the wedding back on track? Is there any stories that you can say, well, they were an hour behind, or, you know, because 10 minutes behind is okay. That's kind of like your grace period, you know. But has it ever been any times where a wedding was late and you had to get it back on track? How do you go about getting the wedding back on track?
I almost want to say not on my watch.
Right.
I can honestly say, like, to your point, if 10 minutes isn't late, then no. Right. Because I really pride myself in sticking to time. Okay. You know, I can't even think of a time where I was so severely late that I had to catch up. Now, granted, things happen. I intentionally create pockets of time, like buffers in my timeline. Yep. And when I go over that timeline, the client will call out, well, what are we going to be doing from 5:45 to 6:15? Nothing. You know, I just
I like that.
I just put it in there, you know, because trust me, your ceremony's not gonna start till 5:15. It's gonna take 30 minutes anyway. We're gonna be at 5:40, you know. Yep. And then when they like, oh, it creates a little bit of ease in the day. Right. So by tucking those buffers in there, I'm always, if I get 10 or 15 minutes behind, some type of way it's getting made up. Okay. In the immediate future, you know? Right. And my ultimate goal is to get you, I always say, on the dance floor. My goal is to get you on the dance floor. Right. I understand that the day for the couples looks like, I pay all this money and I'm just getting pulled here and there and here and there. I'm like, I get it. I just want to get you to the dance floor. Yeah. You know, like, hear me out. So the quicker we can get through, we can keep on time, you will be to the dance floor in 2 hours, you know? That's the goal.
So a couple that's getting pulled here, there, and everywhere and all of that stuff, that happens when they have a wedding planner.
It can, because like the logistics of the day, whether that's like cocktail hour is not for the couples. You know, me telling them up front, don't think you're going to your cocktail hour unless you choose to front load your photos.
I like that.
You know, like I have to tell them up front, it's not for you and your bridal party, stay. Yeah. You know, but setting that expectation. So them knowing, like, it feels like business to a lot of clients, because it's like, I woke up for the brides, at least. It's like, oh, makeup started at 6, 8 a.m. Like they're up early. Somebody needs to get breakfast. Oh God, now we got to go do that. Now it's time to get in my dress. And now the photographer's here and I'm posing. And it feels extremely formal to them when most of them feel like I'm supposed to be having fun. Right. And you're still having fun, but the formalities of the day just feel like checkpoint. And plus you have the timeline that's moving you along. Right. Beneficial because we're on time, but ultimately the couple wants to get to the point of like, can we just dance? Can we just have a drink and have a good time? Yeah. You know, even you get down the aisle, you get back down the aisle, now we got to take pictures. You know, now I'm shuffling family. So it feels like a checklist to them.
So the reason I asked that question is because this is the reason why I tell couples to get a planner. Because if they don't have a planner, if they don't have Tiffany there to show them everything that they need to do to shuffle them around to make sure they're at the right place, then they're the ones that's going to be doing it on that day. Am I right?
Yes. And that gets tough because then you also have that added layer of family and friends just wanting to say, hi, congratulations. And I'm usually the one to say, excuse me, we got to go, photos, you know, but otherwise you want to talk, you got to stop. You don't want to be mean. You know? Not to say I'm being mean, but I'm the buffer between like, got to go and I'm trying to talk to you right now. You know, I'm like, you paid me to do this. And they usually appreciate that because they can't get away.
Correct.
So it's like, I want to get those pictures. I want to cut my cake in private. I want to have a first look.
Right.
I just need to be able to get there.
Yeah. That stuff is important because when a couple is pulled every which way, and then at the end of the day, when we're trying to take pictures with them, we've had it where couples, they get a little frustrated because they just want to get to the dance floor, like what you were just saying, and kind of enjoy the day. And it's like, we have to get these pictures because if we don't, then you're going to be upset that we didn't get the pictures.
And that was an investment. You know, they invested in photography, a planner, catering, you know, whatever that may be. Or even to that point, we have to get to dinner because you just paid thousands of dollars for food. You know, like you paid for an open bar. It's all about, my mindset is making sure they're getting their money's worth on day of. I want to make sure you remember you have this open bar, that you remember that you wanted sunset photos. You know, the sun only sets once tonight, you know, so like, let's go, you know, so we got to get it moving. But I sense frustration from my clients sometimes, but I think, again, knowing that one, I've built a relationship with them for 9 months, sometimes more than that. And really, like I said, bringing them back. Like, I'm like, I know, listen to my brides, listen, girl. You know, I'm like, come on, like, I got you. Like, we going to get there. Right. I want to get you to the dance floor, too. So I can put my clipboard down. No,
I'm with you. And how do you go about, like, personal touches for what the couple want? How do you make sure that, well, let me say this. What's the best way for a wedding couple to put their personal touch on a wedding and stay within the budget?
I think knowing what your personal touches are first, which could be as simple as, I think about hobbies, you know, couples that like to travel. It's little things that could even be an additive from your bridal party, whether we're incorporating passports or staying. What does my invitation suite look like? Something that I have to do anyway. How can I really bring in the aesthetics of a hobby or family heirlooms? I think that's a really easy one. When I think about brides or grooms that'll bring in like a boutonniere or a lapel pin, or I've seen couples that customize like the lapel pins for their bridal parties. You know, like giving them lapel pins that say your date or your name. Adding a family heirloom on a bouquet. You know, like a photo of like maybe a mother or grandmother. Taking opportunities to customize the items that will stick with you after wedding day. Like, I love when grooms customize their inside of their jackets. You know, or the inside of their sleeves, you know, like, especially if it's a suit that he invested in for the wedding, you know, customize like that. So your photographer can get it.
The pictures. And we got to remember to get that. We like, do you have anything special on the inside of the coat? Oh, yeah. And then they got all the initials.
And they're excited about it. Yes, because that's something that is unique to your wedding.
Correct.
You know, and it's not the big colors of the flowers, or it's really like, what do we like? What do we cherish? Photos. I love when people, my couples incorporate pictures of, whether that's a memory table, whether that is like your engagement pictures blown up to 7 feet by 4 feet, you know, like, that's huge. Make it about you. Like, if I'm going to put this amount of money out, you are going to walk into like a me party, us party. You know?
It's supposed to be fun.
And really, weddings are trending towards like guest experience. So if you know, I like table tennis, I don't know, let me find a table tennis table. If I'm having an outdoor wedding, I'm going to bring table tennis. You know, like, how can I make this as unique as possible to what me and my fiance like to do.
Right.
If we like pizza, late night snack is pizza.
Yep.
I want a food truck, it's pulling up. So make it about you. It's your day, literally.
Right. What are some of the themes that you're seeing? Let's talk about that. New themes that you see being incorporated into weddings. And I always ask each vendor that come on this, what are you seeing? I know we were talking to Kenny Clapp. He was saying some stuff that he's seeing. And Dwayne Hazelwood was saying some stuff that he's seeing. What are some of the things that you're seeing on weddings now for the bride and the groom?
Yeah, lots of customization.
Okay.
Like down to the napkins at the bar, the stirrers at the bar, dance floor monograms. They're really wanting to follow out a design from like invitation to reception. So the consistency in that design, I'm seeing that couples are taking more, they're leaning more into. They want those elements. I'm also seeing even down to like a signature drink. Signature drinks have been around, but it's almost like standard now.
Okay.
I remember when that was like a different like type of thing to have at your bar, but couples are leaning towards having drinks that represent them at their bar. When I think about photography, couples wanting timeless photography, that classic feel.
Yep.
Lots of black and white. So, and when I think about them wanting that aesthetic, I see the fashion shifting into just like for my brides, soft glam, lots of bows and poofy dresses. Towards my grooms, they're investing more in their looks.
Yeah.
So we're seeing colored jackets. Yeah. We're seeing custom interior prints. Yep. But customization, like couples are really like making it their own, and stepping away from that cookie cutter wedding down to the cake. Like what this cake, it's not just standard tiered cakes. We're skipping tiers. We're adding colors. We're like whatever we can do to make it different, to make it mine. Most couples are leaning into that.
I saw on Instagram the other day a guy was cutting a cake with a sword. That was a $10,000 cake.
I
was like, what in the world?
I didn't even count the tiers, but yes, I saw that. And I actually was on the phone with another planner, and I made the same comment, like, what am I looking at right now? Like, I couldn't believe what I was looking at. And she actually said that was $1 million wedding, and which was a whole nother conversation.
Oh, yes.
But a $10,000 cake being cut with the sword, so I'm like, whatever floats your boat. Couples are literally like, I jokingly ask my couples, is there anything outside of your standard vendors and needs that I should know about? Like, are you trying to arrive in a helicopter? Are we making like an elephant appearance? Do we want a Mardi Gras band at the reception?
Yep.
But like I said earlier, they're also investing more into entertainment, or just, like I said, overall guest experience. Okay. So whether that's a hip hop violinist, whether that is a dancer, a ballet dancer for a ceremony, or a vocalist, or they're just investing in entertainment, which is enhancing the guest experience as well.
Right. How can, like, for challenges, how can couples overcome unexpected challenges when things arrive? I don't know. Let's just say somebody breaks their arm or leg, or grandma can't make it now. What's the best way for a couple to deal with that?
Yeah. Up front, I say expect it.
Okay.
But there are these one-off times where you can't expect it.
Correct.
So in the case where I say expect it, in these 9 to 12 months, something is bound to happen.
Yes.
So I just want you to get your mind around the idea that anything can happen. And again, as the planner, I'm lending myself as just like an olive branch to say, I'm not wishing bad juju over your wedding, but I do want you to understand in 9 months, a business could close, a vendor could change. Some may even experience loss, and I've had couples that did experience loss, like loss of a bridal party member, and what that looks like is really, one, being supportive to my client. If I could speak to that example, that did happen. Okay. In one of my COVID weddings, I had a couple who lost their best man within a month of the wedding.
Let's talk about that. How did that affect everything, and what did it do to the groom?
Right. Of course, being able to tap into this a mode of human. One, we're human.
Correct.
I'm planning your wedding, but I'm so sorry for your loss.
Yes.
You know, especially your best man. The groom obviously was hurt by it, but did not choose to promote someone else into that position.
Mm-hmm.
And so the bride, and he honestly, the groom just sat on it, didn't say much about it. It was the bride that came to me and said that, one, the loss had happened. Two, he didn't want to promote anyone into that position. And three, how can we really pay homage to the best man that we did lose?
Mm-hmm.
And so the creative juices in me thought, we're going to put a picture on an acrylic pillar at the altar. You know, I had to really tap into how can we pay homage to this best man, make him present at the ceremony, not increase any costs anywhere, you know, but really make it beautifully incorporated into the ceremony. And we were able to arrange for like an acrylic pillar to be at the altar, at the top of the aisle where the best man would have stood.
Right.
And the maid of honor ushered in a picture of the best man, and she placed it on the acrylic pillar.
Nice.
And the acrylic pillar was just there, you know, in position, and the rest of the groomsmen lined up behind the acrylic pillar,
right,
as if he were in front, you know. So
That's awesome.
But it was a matter of them being okay with me even wanting to do that. Like, I'm not trying to make a show out of this, but I want you to know that that's an important aspect of your wedding. You know, that's your best man, which to the groom might have been a best friend, potentially related, you know, maybe a brother or cousin, but the role he played was important. I know that much, you know, so being able to like empathize and adjust, like we can't just cancel the wedding, or you could have moved someone up, but they didn't choose to.
Right.
So how do I provide them a creative solution in this moment? And if I'm not mistaken, that groom did not know about that setup until the ceremony.
That was my next question.
I'm sitting
that
here.
was my next question. Did he know that this was happening? And then when he found out, what was his expression? Like, I'm sure it was joyful and tearful at the same time.
That's what actually brought my thoughts to that, because I remember the reaction.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, you're right. The bride kind of came to me and facilitated the want, you know, and then I created the solution. And then the day of, we just set it up.
Right.
Because mind you, our couples are getting ready.
Right.
They're not setting up the ceremony space.
Yep.
So it's just a matter of reaching out to whoever needed to provide the acrylic pillar, making sure the bridesmaid, the maid of honor, and the bride communicated and got a picture of the best man, got that to me, you know, and having that set up so that the groom could have his best man at the ceremony.
That's great. That's good work. And that's the human side of it. You know, you're a vendor, you're a wedding planner, but at the same time, you're a human being. You know, you have family and things like that. And, you know, you would want somebody to do the same thing for you.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. I love treating my clients like family. In fact, when they on board and when they exit, I'm always saying, you're part of the T&W family now. You know, and a lot of times it's my brides that are just like, so it's just over? You know, like we spent 9 to 12 months together. And it's just, and then what happens is I'm at the baby showers, I'm at the, you know, I'm at whatever comes next for you. And I want to be able to celebrate you. But in the planning process, I do encourage so much collaboration and transparency that ultimately we're like glued by the waist, you know. And then when wedding planning ceases, I have a friend. Yeah. And then we just roll into friendship. So, you know, it's cool when you actually provide that safe space for them.
Yeah. And when they feel comfortable with you, it helps them to listen to what you're saying. Like you said earlier, you know, hey, I got you. Just come on, let's do this. Let's get through this. I got you. Just listen to what I'm saying so I can guide you through. Because a lot of times they lose track of time. And before you know it, they're late to their own wedding, which that was probably one of the things they said on the day was, I don't want to be late on my wedding. Yeah. And now they're being late. Yes. You know, so that
big
goes a long way.
Accountability partner.
Yeah.
Big accountability partner.
That goes a long way. You know, it is extremely important to be on time for your wedding. What would you say is one of the main things that make weddings late?
It starts at the top. You know, I almost want to say 2 points. One would be beauty. Okay. Because it starts the day. you know. And then when I think about, and this has happened, oh my God, I have so many stories.
Tell us one.
As I'm sitting in reflection,
no names, but
no
tell
names,
us one.
no, of course. I had a wedding where it wasn't even like anyone's fault. The hotel by which the bride and her bridal party was at doing hair and makeup had a fire drill the morning of the wedding.
Wow.
And I'm like, again, my days are 10 hours long, but the timeline usually starts before I get to the hotel.
Correct.
So I will call. If I'm up, I'll wake up, I'll call usually my maid of honor, check in, make sure, or I'll call my makeup artist, my hairstylist, are you there? I would have already asked the hotel, leave a key downstairs so they can get in at 7:30, 8, whatever that is. So that morning, I remember touching base. Makeup artist was there. She got upstairs to the room.
Yeah.
And then the bride is just blowing my phone up. And when I answered, I'm like, is everything okay? She's like, we're outside. They had a fire drill. I think it was drizzling that day.
Oh, man.
So hair was in question. And the hotel needed to evacuate the entire building, wait for the fire marshals to do their little check.
What?
Before everyone, including my bridal party, could go back into the hotel. And so I'm like, oh my God, you know, this wasn't on the account of the makeup artist being late, the girls being late. This was like, why are you guys pulling a fire drill when my bride is in here? But
wow,
in that, you know, think about the delay. We're outside for 30 minutes. Now we get inside. We need to, fix the makeup that got a little moist and hair that got a little wet. Because we are not doing that. The girls wanted retouches. But then 2, we still have to finish the faces that got delayed.
Man.
So when thinking about that, and right behind them, we might have photography arriving. Now the girls are like, we're not ready. We're not in our robes yet. We're still, you know, whatever that looks like.
Everything
now photography is waiting. Now you may or may not get the shots you want, but if you still want everything you want, now your transport from one location to the next is delayed, or we're making decisions that will be going against what you wanted.
Right.
You know, which I never want to see my clients have to do that. So once the timeline kind of shifts at hair and makeup, it can be caught back up, but it definitely creates a little bit of pressure.
Right.
Yeah.
The fire drill.
The fire drill was the first time I had ever.
It's nothing you can do about that. Like, that's not the couple's fault. That's not that's not the hair and makeup team's fault. That's, you know, it's. Why would a hotel do something like
almost want, and the problem solver in me is like, I wanted to call the front desk and be like, now, why did you, you know, like, because I had been in contact with the hotel manager to get the booking.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking this had to be scheduled, because it wasn't, the sprinklers didn't go off unless somebody actually, I don't recall if a real fire or microwave, I don't know what could have happened. But in my mind, it was nothing I could do about it, but just wait. I was able to, I think we got her some free parking.
For all the guests too?
Yeah, well, for the bridal party, the bride and groom was staying there. Yep. But that was like her prep hotel, but she was paying for valet.
Okay.
You know, so I think in her frustrations, I was like, let me see what I can do. You know, but she was livid. And it took like calling the front desk or the manager, and just, again, that relationship. My client is very upset.
Yeah,
like,
I would be too.
Look, I don't know if this was planned or not, but she did not pay for the presidential suite on the top floor.
Right.
To get kicked out into the rain, you know? And the caveat was, we'll cover her parking, which was actually, you know, feasible for her.
Yeah.
It worked out. But
because it can be expensive.
Yeah, it was like $75 a day. It was racking up. But it was just the thought, you know, the thoughtfulness in that. Nothing we can do about the fire drill. Can't take it back. And then communicating with the makeup artist. How much more time do you need? Where were you at? How many more faces you got?
Yeah.
And she's like, I can be done in X amount of minutes. And I'm like, okay. And then recalculating.
What was everybody like, say the makeup team, did they say, well, it's going to cost extra, or they was just like, no, we're going to work with this?
Yeah, they worked with it.
Yeah.
You know, because like that human factor comes into play.
Correct.
And honestly, in my vein of thinking, if that would have been like we're going to charge extra, that's when I would have stepped in, because I always say I'm advocating for my clients. So I definitely would have stepped in and tried to argue, what? Like, you're going to charge them when the hotel didn't?
Yeah.
Like, what you mean? Like, that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
You know, now I understand, but sometimes I just like to, again, advocate for my clients and bring in the human factor.
Yeah.
Because that particular example, no one could have foreseen that.
Right. Yeah.
Wasn't the client's fault.
So when the couple finally see their big day, when y'all get there, the big reveal, when you take a couple down to show them their vision of everything you put together, because a lot of times couples don't see any of that before somebody's sitting there. They may see pictures of it, but they never see it. So the big reveal, you know how you bring the couple in and, you know, you cover your eyes and you bring them in and you show them the vision that they all put together and what y'all worked so hard for. What is that like to them when they finally see that?
For them, one, I love room reveals. I love it because a lot of times I want my clients to trust me with their design. Because it takes that much more stress off of them. You don't know the height of florals and the styles of flowers. And, you know, so like if you really hand over your design, your vision, and allow me to work, and then they're just paying the con, they see it, but they're trusting the process. You know, so I love when my clients and when I create that timeline to give room for a room reveal, because to them, to your point, they'll never see it. Without a room reveal, the couple has put all this money into this room, and then someone's in it, or the reception opens and you're just coming in with people already standing and napkins on the chairs and whatever that is. So I love encouraging a room reveal and then making time for the room reveal. And I think for the couples, it's a sense of like, amazement. You know, they've been seeing 2D mock-ups for 9 months, you know, whatever that is. They've been seeing in this environment virtual setups or just like pictures. Sometimes they don't even get to physically see like a floral mock-up. We're just looking at a picture of something else and hoping that it looks like this on the wedding day, you know? So I give them that time to see your chairs, your linens, your centerpieces, your florals, your menu cards. You know, like they've designed and put so much thought into it, and they're just like in awe when they see it come together. I always feel a strong sense of appreciation, which feels good to me. You know, when they're just like, wow, like I really let go and I still got the wedding of my dreams. Like, this is great. And then they get the moment to take a picture or two in it. You know, you'll never get to take a picture in the middle of your dance floor
with nobody
with no one in it again. You know, so giving them that time, and they value that. They really are so grateful. I've seen tears on first look, room reveals. The couples that just want to go touch everything. Like, the gold cutlery, you know, look at the menu card, but they want to see all of these elements that they might not have seen in person, probably will never see again in person. And they paid for, you paid for this. You pay for this. So I'm like, look at everything. Before we let your guests in, look at everything. So, and for people that don't know what a room reveal is, you want to explain to them what a room reveal is. Sure. So a room reveal happens at the reception. And it's just the opportunity for the couple to walk into their space, specifically with your eyes closed. You know, so I like to have the ballroom doors or the venue doors closed, ask them to close their eyes, open the doors, and we'll guide them to a center focal point in the room. And once we get them positioned, photographers are in place, fluff the dress, fix the boutonniere, we ask them to open their eyes. And sometimes we'll even ask the DJ, turn on like Ribbon in the Sky, you know, hit them with something nice, you know, whatever that first dance song is maybe. But it's just the couple, the planner, usually like the photography team, and sometimes the design team if we have florists or decorators on the team. But we just allow them to take it in this like 10 minutes of just peace. And it happens right before we open up the doors to your 150, 250, you know, before everyone comes in and messes with things. You know, we've spent so much time setting up the tables, unloading the trucks, bringing in the flowers, putting down the napkins, folding the napkins, placing the menu cards. Setup is happening while hair and makeup sometimes, you know, like things are going on all morning, including the 9 months of planning. So for you to just get 9 minutes to look at everything in place before your guests come in and start touching everything and putting it on Instagram. You know,
you haven't even seen it.
You haven't even seen. You're still in the bridal suite waiting to get introduced, and people are taking selfies in your reception space. You know, so I'm like, please do a room reveal. I can carve out 10 minutes and get the team together enough to capture you in your space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is your thought on like the unplugged weddings? I know a lot of couples have been doing like the unplugged weddings.
Yeah.
Do you recommend that, or is it some people it's good for, some people it's not good for? How do you feel about the unplugged weddings?
I prefer an unplugged ceremony.
Okay.
You know, and that's specifically because there's so many moments in a ceremony that I think do not need the shadows of a cell phone in it.
Okay.
You know, so when we go unplugged ceremony, one, it takes the focus off of like people trying to juggle their cell phones and stand up to get the right shot. You know, they're standing over the people behind them. Everyone can have a seat. Everyone can see the ceremony straight on, you know, and it allows for the photography team to shine.
Yep.
Because one thing that I know my clients get frustrated about is getting an album back, and not all of them, but that shot at the end of the aisle.
Yep.
And we're looking down the aisle. Maybe they're having their first kiss, or the bride is getting down the aisle, and you just see phones, you know, just phones. And it's nothing that the photography team can do. Like, you can't edit out 150 phones,
right?
You know, but then the couple starts to think whatever their thoughts are as to why so many phones are in my professional images. No one can do about that,
right.
But we can plan in advance
yes.
to have an unplugged ceremony.
Right.
You know, so I love that because it keeps the focus on the couple, the vows, the moment. The ceremony is 30 minutes, unless we're maybe an hour max. But for the most part, put your phones away.
Yes.
Enjoy this sacred moment. And then we can pull them back out, you know, after cocktail hour reception.
Yeah.
But at least unplug the ceremony.
Oh, yeah. I agree completely, because a lot of times the guests are in our way.
Yes.
As the photographer, they're in our way. You know, us photographers and sometimes the videographers are trying to work around each other.
Yeah.
But then we got to work around the guests. The photographer and the videographer got to work around the guests.
Yes.
And it's like, you know, like, so if they had it unplugged, it would work a lot better. But
one less
and some couples don't want to. They just like, oh, just let the guests be. Just let them have fun until they get their pictures back.
Right. And so, but you know what? Again, from the planner side, if they don't want unplugged, again, education.
Yeah.
So I'll say, okay, you know, you don't have to do unplugged, but just know, you know, people are going to be really excited to see you. You know, they're going to want to take pictures. I don't know how you feel about your pictures making it to Instagram before you show Instagram. You know, I try to just, like I say, tell them all the possibilities. And if they are really so chill that it's like, we don't care, then I just tell they don't care.
Okay.
You know, and I'll tell my photography team, get the shot. They don't care.
They're not worrying about it.
They don't worry about it, you know. But you are right. I've seen guests in the aisle, you know, like in the center aisle, like walking behind the bride or trying to get that picture of her dress, or the couple's trying to exit out and they're following them down the aisle. And I'm like, oh my God, that is why you paid for a photography team. But if you are genuinely okay with your guests doing that, I've even had couples that have like a QR code that encourages guests to take pictures. You know, like, take these pictures and share them here. Right.
And they just have like a so they scan the QR code and then they would just have like a hashtag. Okay.
Like the QR code would drop them off. I forgot what the website is, but it'll drop them off on like a website where the guests can take pictures throughout the day and add them into like a cloud folder. Essentially.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So, you know, couples are starting to lean into that as a part of the guest experience, but equally make your ceremony unplugged.
Yeah.
At minimum, save the QR codes for reception.
I would agree. Keep it unplugged.
Yeah.
It makes for a better experience for all of the vendors that are there, and it make for a better experience for the couple as well. Yeah. So
give them something to pay attention to.
Yeah.
It's like the one time in the day guests actually have to pay attention. Yeah. You know, that's it. We can do the phones at the 5-hour cocktail hour and reception.
Right. So where can people find you at? Like, how can they get in contact with Miss Tifphany?
Yeah, so Tifphany Nichol on Instagram. It is spelled TIFPHANY Okay. So at Tifphany Nichol on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay. And so do you got a website?
Yes, also Tifphany Nichol, so www.tiffanynicole.com.
Okay.
It's essentially the spelling. I always tell people it's the same in all platforms, so just make sure you spell it right or you won't find me.
Yeah. We definitely want to find Miss Tifphany. She does a great job. And if you want to hire her information will be in the show notes. We'll have everything on YouTube, everything on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, all the places you can find all of your podcasts at. And if, like I said, if you want to look her up. I mean, she does a great job. You can find her on Instagram. She got a nice following and people respect her work. So thank you, Miss Tifphany, for coming up.
Thank you.
And we're going to end it here. You've been around this long. Thank you. And we appreciate all the support. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.